show. Coming up, comedy actress Leslie Ash talks about her return to the stage and why she loved the men behaving badly. Plus, did you know that more than 200,000 pigeons served Britain in the Second World War? We'll be finding out more about other heroic animals involved in the wars of the 20th century. And later, teen tamer Loreen Mara tackles any of your parenting problems. Get in touch. 0207 173 5555 is the number to call. Now, Jillian Haslam was born and raised in India, but as part of a white family, and she suffered excruciating times of poverty and racism. Her determination for a better life helped her rise above the horrific circumstances of her youth and made her a successful businesswoman. A truly inspirational story. Please welcome Jillian to the show.
Thank you.
Hello. Lovely to have you here. It is an incredible story, and one that seems so at odds with our image of India and the poverty in India. How did your family come to be there in the first place?
My father was a captain from the British Army, and he went out there with his parents, who were both British. When India got their independence, the British people were allowed and given 1 year in which to leave the country. Many families chose to stay back because they had a great life there, servants, bungalows, you name it. So many families thought that that would remain the same. Even after the British left. So my father was one such person who made that decision and actually changed the lives of us forever. So that's how he remained there. His sister and her children decided to come back though.
And they had a very different...
They had a very different, completely different life.
Yeah. And so what was your childhood like? I mean, it wasn't the childhood obviously that your grandmother had expected you to have. What was it like?
I think it was us existing with death and facing the reality of life every day. We were in a country that was very harsh and unforgiving actually. Very difficult circumstances, not to mention the poverty, the malnutrition and things like that. The hardship that we underwent of having no home to live in. I don't have a recollection of my home at all. My first memory of my home is under the steps, which is on the cover of my book.
Yeah, there's the picture there. It's also on the cover of your book. And that is where, at one point, you were living with your sister.
And my mother.
Because your father, at that point, was recovering from illness.
A heart attack, yes.
So where was your mum getting money to pay for food? And
from everywhere. I think from the time I was born, as far back as I can remember, we never had a home or a house. We went from pillar to post, family to family, friend to friend. We lived on people's steps, their verandas, their the side of their rooms, wherever we could find space. And my first home was that place under the steps, which I can remember.
And you were completely exposed there as well?
Completely exposed. As you can see, there was a tube well, people walking by, people used to wash their clothes, go to the toilet. Every single thing was done right there.
And you account in the book, of not just the lack of food, the lack of security, certainty, warmth, but also the racism that you encountered there. It's quite shocking.
Yes, pretty much throughout our time of there, we were called some awful things actually. White lizards, white cockroaches, white whatever, and I don't want to mention.
I don't know why. Maybe it's naive. But there would be solidarity because you were all living in poverty in the area. That you weren't living in poverty in an area that was wealthy. You were all struggling. Everybody, but somehow you were marked out as being different.
Well, because we were different, I think most of it was done out of weakness and ignorance, rather than spite and hate. And obviously, we were marked out, yes, because we were different. So. If you look at a picture of my sister, she's very, very fair and very blonde, and we didn't have much clothes or anything, so if you kind of were...
Were you in school uniforms then? You were going to school?
We were going to a boarding school, yes.
How long did you go to that boarding school?
All our lives we went to that boarding school. It was a school started by the British, so we didn't have to pay any school fees, we didn't have to pay anything for our education. No, nothing for our food. It was just free for all.
So the education was the thing that really sustained you, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my mother wouldn't have anything off it, even though we wanted to stay home and we wanted to help and we didn't want to go back. But she was like, no, education comes first. you will go back, even though I was the one who helped with the little ones at home and was kept home most of the time. I still managed to complete my entire education, yes.
How many children did you have in total?
We have 6 sisters and 2 brothers.
That was, I mean, it must have been so, so tough, for not just for your mum, but for you as well, helping with all those younger children, wondering where their food was going to come from. And I understand there's a tea shop, which was, you know, you say saved some of your siblings' lives in terms of their generosity.
It was very difficult, Gabby, because we lost 4 siblings to, as I said, complete poverty and malnutrition. And the 2 that passed away before me, I wasn't there for, but the 2 that were literally buried in tea cases in my presence, because we couldn't afford coffins. Up to this day, I have no idea where they're buried. My mum died not knowing where they're buried, but they were twins, Kimberly and Alan. And it's affected my elder sister a great deal. So till this day, she doesn't have any children of her own. We almost lost the 5th sibling when the doctor sent her home and said she didn't have any hope to live. But it was that little tea shop that actually, in front of me, I ran to him and asked him for some free milk, and he put that little milk in a huge can, and he emptied a bucket of water into it. And he picked up a bowl, a steel bowl, and he said, "Take it and now get out." So I took it and went, and the doctors in the free hospital, I have no idea what they gave us to give her, but they said to us that she's not going to make it. But they were little white powders and wrapped up in little bits of newspaper, and we had to just mix that in some water or some that little diluted milk, and we had to give it to her every half an hour around the clock till she made it. And we had to give that to her for months. But if you saw her state, you could literally put a stick through her right to the eye, and her eye was right at the back of her head, so it was very, very bad. But she made it, and she topped the Birkbeck University. She was school captain, and she's very pretty and very intelligent girl today. So I'm very proud of her.
Well, I'm sure she's equally proud of you, because how you got, you know, to be here and be the successful businesswoman that you have, you know, it's some leap, isn't it? When your education obviously stood you at this stage, you got a job eventually there. And what made you want to come back then to England?
My parents always wanted us to come back and always wanted us to start better lives and, you know, change the lives of all of our siblings. When I joined a multinational bank there, I managed to obviously do really well. I was the head of charity and diversity for the employee networks, and I was president of the club and all of that. So I managed to earn enough to contact the Home Office and get our ancestral papers to get me and my family to come away.
And it was always important to you that you were going to give back, and you felt that this was really important for you as much as for the people that you were going to give to, and you started working in charity. At what point did that happen?
When I was working at the multinational bank in India, like I said, I was head of charity. We went out to the mental institutes, to the deaf and the dumb, the slums, the homes for the dying and the destitute, and we did a lot of good work there. And I think that's when I was at my best. I love helping people, and I think that's one of the reasons why I wrote my book, is because I want to be able to try and help the children out there who are not multiplying by the dozens, but multiplying by the hundreds on railway stations with absolutely no food, very ill and dying every day.
And we were talking earlier on, weren't we, about how India, on the one hand, obviously economically is booming. It's got 8%, growth, the kind of growth that this government would just, bite its hand off for in terms of economic prosperity. But then on the other hand, as you say, the poverty is blowing out of control as well at the other end.
Yes, there's a huge divide between the rich and the poor. I remember going back to India about 2 years ago and staying at a 5-star, and as you come out of the gates of a 5-star, there are children with no legs, no hands, absolutely poverty-stricken. They are mothers who can't stand because they're so weak. And it's shocking, and I know what that is, because we begged one day. We were trained to starve ourselves. I know what it is, so I want to help, and I want to try to change things. I know people say you can't change world poverty, but drop by drop the ocean fills, and we all have to try. And that's what I want to do.
Well, exactly what those children are going through, and I think what you've done is incredible to turn your life around. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences.
Not at all, it's a pleasure.
And best of luck with everything that you do.
Thank
because,
you.
It really is a shocking read, I think, but in spite of all that, you say that you feel Indian and you really love the country so much.
Absolutely. I was asked this question actually before, that do you think the bad outweighs the good? And I think no, the good definitely outweighs the bad, because no matter what we put through, our lives were saved. We were helped by the poorest of the poor, and our lives were saved, and that's how I'm here to sit in front of you and tell the story. So gratitude before everything.
Jillian, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you, and for making it through the snow as well. You set off really early, didn't you, to get to us today? So
thank you.
Thank you. Now, after the break, actress Leslie Ash on playing a 7 times married veteran in The Art of Romance. Should be interesting. I'll see you soon.